Howdy y'all, welcome back to Camp Shack Productions. Today I want to talk about how you can take all of this gear and make it so that it all fits inside of your backpack. For those of you that live in a climate that maybe is experiencing snow for the first time, or maybe those of you that live in a place where it's normally very snowy, like here in Salt Lake, and we've had rain and 65-degree weather days here in Salt Lake the last little while, and you're thinking about possibly going out and doing a winter backpacking adventure, I want to show you the best way and some of the gear that I highly recommend you take to make this super safe and super fun. Don't let the idea of winter backpacking scare you. It's a lot of fun and it actually provides a really great activity. So let's get started. Very first thing I want you to pick up if you're gonna go and do some sort of winter backpacking is a pack liner of some sort. And that could be as simple as just a regular garbage bag. Trash compactor bags work even better than garbage bags. That could be a Nylaflume pack liner from Garage Gear. Or that can mean something like a full-on dry bag like I have here. I use this when I go on river trips or when I'm canyoneering and I need to make sure that everything stays super duper dry. However, I think if anything on this trip that I'm going on, I'm probably just going to get a little bit of snow. So I am actually going to use something that I really like. And these are dry sacks that are actually compressible. You can suck all the air out of them, compact them down really small. They are more expensive, and I have a 25 liter and a 15 liter. If you're not going to use these, if you're going to use something like this, I want you to put it inside of your pack first. Actually place this inside of your backpack and pack this thing very first. Just remember, you have to leave enough air to get enough room to get the air out of there. And you also have to make sure that you don't put anything sharp next to any of these or they will puncture them. You know what I mean? So don't go sticking your knife or your hatchet or something like that right next to them. But let's get started with actually packing our bag and getting gear inside of this thing. Very first thing I'm going to start with, and I suggest you start with as well, is your sleeping bag. So at the very bottom of our bag, we want to pack the stuff that we're going to need very last and that we want to keep the safest. So for me, that is again my sleeping bag. And I want you to get rid of your bag that it comes in. I want you to get rid of your stuff sacks. If you're using a airbag like I am, or if you're just using a regular dry bag, take it and just stuff it all the way in. And you'll notice that with these bags, I am not doing it inside of the pack. And that is because I know that I can get this thing super small and compress it really far down if I keep it out of the pack. And that's the great part about these, is that they really do compress. So the other thing that's super important is recognizing what kind of sleeping bag you'll need. This is my RAI bag that's rated for a comfort rating of 18 and a survival rating of about 12 degrees. And it's gonna be somewhere in that 18-degree range where I'm going. And you can see I'm just working this thing down. It's an 850 downfill and it is outstanding. Next thing I'm gonna throw in is this is my Reactor sleeping bag liner. Do not sell these things short. This adds a ton of additional weight. Not only that, but if you're sleeping in a place where there's a lot of sand, dirt, dust, this adds a layer of like grime protection for the inside of your sleeping bag. I love this thing. I use it all the time. So that is also going inside of this. This is my Trekology pillow. It doesn't really need to be dry sacked, but I just want to keep it with my other items. Okay. This is my down jacket. This thing is absolutely fantastic. It packs up into this little bag, and I just am gonna stick this right inside of there. And then these are my additional warm clothes. If it's not going to be super wet or snowy, I would keep them in something like this. But because I know that it's going to be, I'm just going to pull them out of my packing cube and just shove them right inside of here. Okay, and you can see that I have left a ton of room to actually roll up my dry sack, which is super, super important if you're going to do this. And again, I'm going to open that valve. And once I get about 4, 5, or 6 rolls, I can buckle this thing up. And then I'm going to flip it over. And I'm going to compact it down. And then with this, because I'm able to do that, I then take it and I stuff it all the way in the bottom of my bag. So that way I've got my kind of lighter stuff here in the middle or in the bottom, and I know that I can kind of compact on top of that because I still got to get a whole bunch of additional gear in here. So the next thing I'm going to throw in, this is the new Nemo Tensor Exotherm 8.5 rated sleeping pad. I'm going to be testing this out on the trip. This is actually probably going to be used more by my wife, but I figure since I got it and I'm going out into the middle of the snow, I might as well test this. So this thing, I'm just going to find a place to kind of cram it down inside of my pack. Next thing I'm going to throw in is just my cordage, because I can probably find, yeah, I can just tuck this back up inside. All right, let's go with our food next. So I am a big believer in being able to just pull stuff out and keep it organized. I will sacrifice the weight of this little stuff sack. Some people won't, but I think it's a really easy way to go. These are my snacks that I'm going to keep in the pocket of my backpack, so I have hip access to them and I can just grab them out of my hip pocket anytime I need to. This is everything that I'm going to need to be able to actually have coffee. I've got an extra lighter, I've got a compass, oatmeal, some couscous. This is actually also normally where I'm going to toss my spoon in, so that I could just keep all of this stuff together. I also have a big old bag of pistachios because, again, I want to have a lot of different types of fat, caloric dense food, and pistachios are really great. Plus the salt helps when you start sweating, and I will start sweating. Next, I'm going to pack up my little backpack meal. Throw in some Korean noodles. And then I do have a full MRE, and I'm not going to put this inside of this pack just because it's going to actually work as a really nice little like flat spot and a barrier in between some of my cook gear. So I'm going to take this and just lay it in so that it's flat. Then I'm going to stuff my food. This is my water purifier, and I just keep it in this little kit together here. Not sure if I'm going to need that, but I always want to have it. This is my actual backpacking stove. This is the MSR Whisper Lite, and it is actually designed to work in snow and cold weather. It runs on white liquid gas instead of a vapor kind of gas, and it has a heating coil. So this thing works really, really good in all weather conditions where your Jetboil is just not going to cut it if it's 18 degrees outside. So it's a little bit heavier, it's a little bit harder to deal with, but I am going to throw it in, and I'm just going to make sure. All right. These are my little fire starters and my first aid kit. My fire starters, I'm going to actually just tuck into the top of my first aid kit here. Maybe. Because again, I'm not really going to plan on using these, but if I need them, they're there. That goes in next. So you can see that I'm starting to put quite a bit of my heavier stuff right in the middle here. This is my Tonks cook pot. Throw that in case I want to make some coffee. I have my hatchet. I'm also going to just kind of tuck this down along the side because I don't really need a whole lot of access to it, and I don't want it falling out of my pack being on the outside. I do have my avalanche shovel. I'll show you where that's going to go. Excuse me, Vader. So now that we've got that kind of out of the way, move this. All right, so that is a lot of my weight. And again, you can just kind of play with this stuff and get it there. So now I have the majority of my heavy stuff right in the middle of my pack. I got my light sleeping gear that I need at the bottom ready to go. The other things that I want to make sure that I have is my emergency tarp. And this thing I just use, again, as possibly a footprint, a place to sit down, whatever I need it for, I've got it. And I just tuck it right here in this front pocket. So that way I have easy, quick access to it anytime I need it. Next up, we have our shelter. So I'm going to take the poles and the stakes, and I'm going to keep them separate. And then I'm just going to take this little tent piece that I have left here. I am going to leave it in the bag. And you'll find a lot of people say that you should actually put this inside of a dry bag. I disagree. A lot of the time when I'm done camping and I'm hiking back, I'm gonna have this on the outside of my pack so that it has time to dry. So again, just stuffing that right in the top. This is my rain shell, my Gore-Tex jacket. This is something that I wanna have access to at any point. So that also goes right here on the top. So at that point, I'm going to seal up my pack. And again, I don't need an exterior pack liner. I don't need any of that stuff right now because everything that I need to keep dry is in a dry bag. And I still have the brain of my pack, which is where, when I'm done, I will put my tent. Okay. Next, I'm going to take my shovel, and actually I'm going to disassemble my shovel. So that way, the very first thing that I can grab off of my pack is that shovel, because I think it is super important to have. I'm also going to place my tent stakes right here in the outside, so that way when they're wet or when I need them, I can grab them right away. My tent poles will go into one of my sleeve pockets. Keep it nice and tight there. And you know what? I actually think I'm going to braid up my pack. Then I have my big water bottle. Nalgene is super important. And that will go right here into this side pocket. And with that, you have a full winter pack. And again, this thing is not light. When you're taking this much gear, you're gonna have to be prepared for it to be kind of heavy because you're going out into the middle of the backcountry. So once we actually get this thing out and in, it really comes down to knowing how to organize your system based on what you need. You have lightweight stuff at the bottom. You have your heavier stuff in the middle, right in the center of your back. And then you have some more lighter weight stuff like your tent and your jacket up in the top. And then me, I always carry this extra foam sleeping pad because it adds an additional 2 R value to the ground. And that means when you're sitting down, when you're actually in your tent, whatever it might be, this thing comes in super duper handy. And for 30 bucks from Walmart, it's well worth having. So there you have it, my friends. This is the way to actually make sure that you have everything you need, you've got it packed correctly, and you know how to organize your gear. And again, you can do this in lots of different ways. You can use the garbage bag, you can use a bigger dry sack, you can stuff everything inside of there. But again, the idea is to go light, heavy, light, and have access to what you need when you need it. The very first thing I'm gonna do when I get to camp is I'm gonna pull out my shovel, I'm gonna clear space. Next thing I'm gonna do is I'm gonna pull out my tent, I'm gonna set that up, and then from there, I'm gonna be able to put my pack inside of my tent. I will keep my sleeping bag and all of that stuff completely dry until I'm getting close to get ready for bed. And then I will pull it out and I will set it all up and let it loft and be ready to go. And at that time, I will also be able to change into some of those additional clothes that I have. I've got extra socks. I've got a really nice fleece mid layer that will wick moisture and keeps you super duper warm. I've got some fingerless gloves that I can actually put on while I'm inside my tent and still be able to cook and do stuff. And I've got an extra beanie so that way with a hat that I wore probably up there that's all sweaty and gross can dry out overnight. And I can just be comfortable. I can cook right inside of my tent and make sure that life is nice and easy. And still while doing it with a pack that is definitely under 30 pounds. You know, this thing right now is not super duper heavy. So overall, I'm pretty stoked about this. Y'all, I hope you got something from this. If you have tips or tricks, leave them in the comments so other people can read them. If you like this video, please go down, hit the like button. If you're feeling super generous, subscribe. Otherwise, I will see you in the next video. I'm gonna take this stuff out and I'm gonna go do a snow backpacking camping trip, and I'm gonna put all this gear to use and show you guys the importance of your sleep system, how it all comes together, and why having all of this extra gear is worth having when you go on a snow backpack trip. Again, I appreciate you making it this far. Thanks for watching. All right, be well, my friends. Stuff is cool, right? Come on. So much gear right inside of that pack. And it's honestly not that heavy.